Hi, thanks for joining me today. We're going to focus on some basic poses to find our core connection. And one of the best poses and sequence of poses that we can do to help connect with our core, the muscles in the front and the back and that wrap around the sides of the body, is plank pose and its variations. So there will be all different levels of plank pose that you can do, many variations. We're going to do some from all fours and some from elbows. If you have any issues with your wrists, that can be helpful. So no special props that you need, just your yoga mat today. So we're going to start with a quick little warm up. So let's come to all fours, coming to table pose. So right away, make sure that you have your proper alignment. So the wrist is directly underneath the shoulder. So as we start to put weight into the arms in the plank pose, we want to make sure the hands aren't too far out. That's going to put a lot of pressure in the shoulder joint, or same thing, too narrow in. We want to think of aligning the skeletal structure so the bones can take the weight, and then those tendons and ligaments and muscles in the shoulder are just supporting, not taking the brunt of the weight. So wrist under shoulders, knees under hips to start with. Again, just finding our table pose, press into the fingertips and the base of the knuckles to help take the pressure out of the wrist. Think of pressing away from the mat, so we're not letting the head and the shoulders sag down. We're thinking of the lowest ribs drawing towards the hips, pressing into the tops of the feet. And then as you exhale, round the spine into a cat pose. So we'll just warm up the spine here first with some flexion and extension, so rounding the spine up towards the ceiling or sky. And then inhale, think of letting the tailbone lift up, the belly drops down, lift the heart and the sternum, the gaze gently forward and up. And then once again, exhale, think of pressing into the hands and the tops of the feet as you round into your cat pose. And then inhale, thinking of letting the belly drop down, lift the heart and the sternum. We're still not sagging into the shoulders. We're lifting up out of the shoulders. And then once again, exhale to that cat pose. Inhale again to cow pose. And then this time as you exhale, just come back to neutral, back to your table pose. And now curl, curl the toes under. Really think of drawing that lower belly in and up, and we're just going to lift the knees up off the mat for a couple inches, coming into a hovering table pose. So you really should start to feel those core muscles engage, front of the body and back of the body. Make sure you're breathing. Again, our breath is a really big component of our core strength. Full inhales and exhales. Another breath, inhaling and exhale, and then gently let the knees release down to the mat. Uncurl the toes and then extend the right leg back, press through the heel, and then extend the left leg back, press through the heel, and then go ahead and release your knees down to the mat. So we'll start with a modification or variation for our plank pose. So we still want to think of drawing the arms into the shoulder sockets, but we're thinking of pressing the mat away. So if we draw the arms into the shoulder sockets, we're not sagging down, we're not letting the head drop. We're keeping that nice engagement, lowest ribs drawing towards the hips. Inhaling and exhaling, think of drawing that lower belly in and up. Find your breath here. Inhale and exhale. And then if you'd like, lift that right knee and that left knee back, come back to that traditional plank pose. So think of a long line from the crown of the head down through the heels. So we're not letting the hips sag down. We're not letting the shoulders sag down. We're think of lifting the front of the body up to meet the back of the body. Inhale and exhale. Good, another breath, inhale and exhale. Now release the knees down to the mat. Uncurl the toes, come back to a child pose. Give the wrists a little break. You can flip the palms up here if you'd like. You can bring the hands back beside the feet. If your forehead doesn't come down, you might stack up the arms and the hands and give yourself a little support here. Or if you have a yoga block, you can use a yoga block under the head. But just take a couple breaths. Breathe into the back of the body. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And then place the palms back down. Inhale, come up to your table pose again. Readjust yourself on your mat if you need to. Wrist under shoulders, knees under hips. So once again, let's extend the right leg back and the left leg back. Come to that plank pose, lengthen through the crown of the head, and then drawing lower belly in and up, sit bones up and back. Come to downward facing dog. Again, lowest ribs draw towards the hips. We're finding that nice core connection here. And then inhale, bring your shoulders back over your wrists. Let the hips descend back to that plank pose, but control the descent so your hips don't sag below the shoulders. Inhale and exhale, and then draw lower belly in and up, sit bones up and back. Once again, come to that downward facing dog. Again, you can keep the knees bent here as you come up, or you can straighten the legs. And then inhale, come back forward again to that plank pose. And then this time again, release the knees down and curl the toes. Bring the hands up and turning the palms up as you fold back to your child pose, or get maybe the hands back beside the feet. Inhale and exhale. And then if you have the hands back beside the feet, go ahead and bring the hands back in front. And again, readjust so your wrists are under your shoulders and your knees are under your hips. Now bring your elbows down to where your wrists were, where your hands were. Do a little alignment check. If you reach for opposite elbows, you should be able to bring those top two knuckles just to the outside edges of the elbows, so that gives us a little reference point there. So we don't want the elbows too far out, but we also don't want them too close in. So think of that alignment. Again, we're thinking of stacking up the bones here. And then bring the hands back out. You can keep the arms parallel or interlace the fingers, knees underneath the hips. Now extend the right leg and the left leg. Same thing here. You can bring those knees down to the mat. Let's start there. Thinking again, even though the knees are to the mat, we're still keeping that core engaged. We're lifting up out of the shoulders. We're not letting the shoulders sag down. We're thinking of drawing the lower belly towards in and up, and the lowest ribs towards the hips. Inhaling and exhaling. And then again, if you can stay there, or you can lift those knees. This is easier on the wrist, obviously. Helps build a little strength in the upper body. Can be a little challenging because your center of gravity is a little lower, so gravity has a little bit more pull on you here, trying to bring you back down to the mat. Inhale and exhale. And then release the knees to the mat, release the hands, walk yourself back again, take a child pose, your option to do with the hands, again, arms in front with the palms up, or hands back beside the feet, or again, using the hands for a little support under the head. Inhale and exhale. And then once again, with the hands back in front, let's come to that table pose. So we're going to do one more little variation from the elbows. So bring your elbows again down directly under the shoulders, interlace the fingers, knees underneath the hips, so make that adjustment if you need to. This time, curl the toes under, lift the knees, send the sit bones up and back, coming to, letting the head release between the arms, come to a dolphin pose. So again, this can be a good variation for a downward facing dog if you have challenge with the wrist. It's building a little strength in the upper body to help us with those plank poses. Still thinking of gauging the core muscles, drawing the lower belly in and up, and thinking of the lowest ribs reaching towards the hips. This time, this would be up towards the hips. Inhale and exhale. And then once again, release the knees down. And come back to your variation of child pose. Inhale and exhale. And then gently, as you're ready, coming all the way back up to a seated position, whatever that is for you, whatever comfortable position, cross-legged or seated as I am on my heels. So just close the eyes for a moment, just notice how your body feels, again, connecting with that core. Inhale and exhale. And then very gently let the eyes open. So I hope that gives you some ideas of some simple poses that you can do to help start to engage the core muscles, again, abdominal muscles, back muscles, muscles that wrap around the sides of the torso. Again, that short video, you can repeat that sequence. You can hold whatever variation works for you for a little bit longer. Again, just building some strength. Make sure you have, again, that proper alignment. Think of stacking up the bones, the skeletal structure to support. The muscles are hugging to the bones, but we want to keep those ligaments and tendons protected, so keeping that alignment with the skeletal structure. So thanks again for joining me today. Check out in the information section below information about Grey Horse Yoga and the classes that I teach. And give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you like this video. And I hope to see you sometime soon in the saddle or on the mat. Thanks. Bye-bye.